Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, man. So today, I was checking out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Philadelphia Eagles game today, and they said something in this game that kind of just really stood out to me. So they were saying that throughout the first 3 weeks of the NFL, the 2025 NFL season, the Philadelphia Eagles they have 100% scoring rate in the red zone. And I was just like, man, that is insane. You know, if you watch my videos and you're familiar with me, you always hear me talk about the significance of a red zone, right? The red zone, a lot of times, can be a very important deciding factor in games won and lost. And obviously, you see the start that the Philadelphia Eagles have gotten off to. So obviously, you see the importance of having a success at an alarming rate in the red zone. And obviously, one of the easiest ways to get the touch to score in the red zone would be running the ball, just because everything becomes so much tight, everything becomes so much condensed. So it is much harder to throw the ball. You're throwing into an ugly picture more times than not because it's so tight that you got defenders that's kind of packed up in a particular area, right? So the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the biggest things that was going on this offseason was them trying to get the tush push ban. You had a lot of people who feel some type of way about that. Me personally, I don't believe that they should ban something just because they can't stop it, because you have 31 other teams that can run that as well too. Now, they don't run into the success of the Philadelphia Eagles probably because they don't practice it as much as they do. But my thing is, you're not taking away something that only one team can do. It's just one team is just that much better than everybody else at it. So I don't believe you should take it down. But to me, they have gotten just that much better in terms of a red zone offense. And I'm going to tell you why, right? So for me, I always say that if you watch my videos, you always hear me use the term gotta have it. Typically, you gotta have it. For me, I usually use it on third down situation and fourth down situations. But I'm a strong believer that, like I said, more times than not, games won and lost a lot of times is in the red zone. So I say that every down, when you get to the red zone, every down is a gotta have it down, whether it's a first down, second down, third down, fourth down. And you can tell that the Philadelphia Eagles have that same way of thinking too, just looking at how successful they've been in the red zone. So right here, you see them lined up. They're not lined up in a typical tush push formation. Obviously, you got Jalen Hurts, who's lined up under center, but you don't have any guys that's lined up positioned behind him to try to get a push forward. So you kind of throw, I feel like for the most part, defensively wise, you kind of throw Tampa Bay for a loop on that one, because they just kind of trying to anticipate exactly what's coming, because I don't recall seeing this formation too much other than them being lined up in the tush push. So you see that they got Saquon lined up out wide. So it kind of has you thinking like, okay, is it going to be some type of little thing to Saquon? But for the most part, you assuming that it's probably going to be a power play up front, which it wasn't. Right here, they just kind of ran like what you would consider a tight end wide receiver screen, where you just get three guys out in front of them, or four guys, they look like, out in front of him, and Jalen Hurts just tosses the ball to him. So you had number 98? Yeah, he had a free, number 96 kind of had a free run at Jalen Hurts. So you kind of had him in no man's land trying to figure out exactly what was going on. And one of the things too, if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, especially looking at them last year and then looking at them probably a little bit of this season too, one of the things that makes them just like Baltimore so good is the commitment from everybody in blocking, right, in the run game. So, most teams typically probably just have the offensive line that blocks. The second level players probably don't really block like that, meaning that the receivers, slot receivers and things like that, maybe even the tight ends on some teams. But one of the things that makes these teams so good is their commitment to everyone doing what they need to do on any particular play. So you see right here, you got Saquon Barkley lined up on the outside, right? So typically Saquon Barkley is the guy with the ball in his hands, kind of, running while everybody else is leading the way. But right here, he showcases his ability to be able to block as well. So, one of the things that stands out to me about Saquon, if you watch my videos, you've heard me talk about this numerous times, is his ability to help in pass protection, like with blitz pickups and things like that. But then he also showcases too that he can block not just in that manner, but then being able to line up wild. But then it also shows the selflessness that he has too, to want to do that, to be a top back like him, and to be saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to be so demanding and want the ball in my hands. If this is what's best for the offense, and if we can create scoring avenues from this, let me buy in and let me commit. And that just kind of push your whole offense on a whole different frame of mind when you got one of your top players out operating with that type of mentality. But like I said, man, this play right here, they were expecting something that's probably going to be a power play up the middle. They was able to adjust, and it kind of just turned into a little pitch and catch. And you got some guys out in the block that was out in front of them blocking, and it just lead to a walk-in touchdown from the tight end. So right here in this formation, so you don't have to worry about the tush push. So that's one thing that you can exit out just because Jalen Hurts isn't under center. So they're lined up in a shotgun, but they're in a condensed formation. So more times than not, I feel like the defense probably was anticipating that it possibly might have been something attacking outside, because normally whenever you line up in a condensed formation, more times than not, it's probably going to be something attacking towards the outside. Just like if you was to line up in a spread, it's probably going to be something attack on the inside. So I think that the defense kind of were anticipating that. And then you see that the Eagles sent Devontae Smith in motion motion from the left side of the formation over to the right side of the formation. So I feel like they probably tried to create some running room right there as well. And then they just did a good job at being deceptive, honestly, man. And they did a good job at being able to sell this. So, you know, you always hear me talk about the art of selling. So like even when you think about boxing, right, when you think about a boxer, more times than not, a good boxer, phenomenal boxer is one who utilizes his jab hand, not just from an offensive mechanism, but two, just to be a distraction to set up whatever other shot that he wants to set up. So right here, you see that typically they pull the tight end, I think that's Goddard, and they pull the right guard, and they pull those guys as if it was going to be a run play, and they were going to get those guys out in front of Saquon Barkley to try to create some running room, some running avenues. But they didn't right here. They used Saquon Barkley kind of as a distraction, honestly, and you see Levante David comes off the edge, crashing hard on it to take Saquon, and when he takes Saquon, Jalen Hurts just pitches that thing off to number 88, and he just, you know, cruises into the end zone for an easy walk-in touchdown. All right, man. So out of all of them, out of all three of those plays that we've seen, by far, to me, the most beautiful was this one right here, man. So Eagle fans, talk to me, man. I'm not quite sure. As many of the Eagles game I have watched, I don't ever recall the Eagles running any type of fake out of the tush push. From my knowledge, I've always seen them when they line up in that tush push, they're not trying to disguise or hide. They just finna line up. They confident in what they can do from that formation, and they just coming out there and they gonna run it. It ain't no distraction, ain't no deceptiveness. What you see is pretty much what you get. So now this is what I was talking about when I was saying this has made them that much harder to deal with. Because typically when you're dealing with the tush push, what was everybody's thing on there? Everybody's whole stand on that was get some big guys and just try to clog up the middle to be able to take that option away, right? So we've seen several teams just put as much mass as they can on that line, D line, to try to prevent them from being able to get that push, right? So right here, man, they typically come out as if they finna run a typical tush push once again. That's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are pretty much anticipating. And man, they run a doggone handoff to Saquon Barkley, and that ain't nothing but green grass in the outside, man. There was nobody on the outside but Saquon Barkley. Everybody in the stadium knew exactly what was coming from the Eagles, from the Eagles offense to the Tampa Bay defense, even to the fans in the stadium. Everybody was anticipating it was just going to be Jalen Hurts taking that thing straight up the middle, man. But they pulled they pulled a cat out the hat on this one, man, and just handed that thing off to Saquon Barkley, man, and nobody was there to be able to take him. So this is what I mean when I say that they offense have just gotten that much harder to deal with, because now you're anticipating trying to deal with them just running the ball up the middle with Jalen Hurts. Now you have to take into consideration that they might run some type of handoffs to Saquon Barkley or whoever else that they possibly have in the backfield. So it's hard enough as it is to prepare for just an original tush push, but now you have to prepare for different variations of it, man. So I think that this play right here, well, all three of those plays, but more specifically this one, because it was ran from the tush push formation, has just made these guys so much harder to deal with. And I understand watching them in the red zone in this game exactly why they started off the season with 100% red zone scoring rate, man. Just seeing how creative they can get whenever they get down there. But man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you click that notification bell, that way you be notified every time I upload, and I'll see y'all in the next video.